My family called me the ugly high school grad and disowned me. 10 years later, I saw them again at my sister's wedding. When her husband asked, "You know her?" I smiled and said, "More than you think." I walked into my sister's wedding as the ghost they tried to bury. And when her brand new husband said, "But Heather told me she's an only child," the entire room froze. The lie finally cracked wide open. I'm Brianna Miller. I was 28, standing outside the Westbrook Country Club with my heart pounding so hard it felt like a warning drum. 10 years earlier, my family cut me out, the ugly duckling, the embarrassment, the one they bet would not come back. They didn't expect me to show up. Certainly not as the woman I'd become. Heather's face when she spotted me across the room? Priceless. Her groom had no idea who I was, which made what happened next even sweeter. Let me take you back to how I got here. Greenwich, Connecticut was our stage. Old money, crisp blondes, white picket fences, carefully curated smiles. My mother, Catherine, could have stepped out of a country club catalog. Designer dresses, perfect blonde hair, a smile trained for photos and polite gossip. My father, Richard, was an investment banker who measured life in connections and optics. Their favorite words were appearances and impressions. Love, in our house, was something you earned by looking the part. Then there was my sister, Heather, the golden girl. Tall, blonde, blue-eyed, effortlessly adored. Homecoming queen. Tennis captain. Straight A's. When she walked into a room, adults beamed. Strangers leaned in. And me? I was the comparison piece. Acne. Braces. 20 extra pounds I tried to hide in baggy sweaters. Mousy brown hair that fought every brush. Glasses that slid down my nose in betrayal. I was smart, very smart, but in my family, that wasn't what counted. "Brianna, why can't you put in some effort like your sister?" my mother would sigh, reapplying lipstick before another party. Impressions are everything. My dad was subtler, but the message stung just the same. "Your sister's already been accepted to 3 Ivy League schools," he'd say over dinner. "What are your plans again?" Even when I was pulling straight A's in advanced math and science, it felt like I was invisible. There were rare normal moments that still hurt to remember. My dad teaching us to swim one summer, Christmas mornings when the pressure dialed down and we laughed together like a real family. Those glimpses made the rest harder. They showed me what we could have been if appearance hadn't been the family religion. School wasn't a refuge. Heather glided, collecting friends like trophies. I ate lunch with a laptop for company and found a home in code. In that world, logic mattered. Skill mattered. Not mascara. Not bloodlines. I taught myself to code at 14, tiny websites at first, then small games, then more complex projects that made my heart race in the best way. "Nobody cares about computers, Brianna," my mother sniffed one night, catching me at midnight lit only by the blue glow of my screen. "Focus on your social skills. That's what gets you ahead." The person who saw me really saw me was my grandmother, Eleanor. Summers at her little Vermont house were oxygen. She'd listen to me explain algorithms with her warm hands wrapped around a mug of tea. "You have a brilliant mind," she told me, eyes fierce. "Some people are blind to substance because they worship the surface. Never doubt your worth. Beauty fades. Brilliance grows." I clung to those words like a life raft. Junior year, the cruelty went public. A girl in Heather's circle, Amanda, launched a Brianna Watch account, posting pictures of me at bad angles with captions sharp enough to cut. And there, in the follower list, was my sister's username. "It's just a joke," Heather said when I confronted her. "God, you're so sensitive." Her voice sounded exactly like our mother's. Then came the night that branded me. Heather's graduation party. Our backyard turned fairy tale. Twinkle lights, a band, the whole Connecticut spread. I'd tried so hard that day. New dress. Makeup. I watched 3 YouTube tutorials to get right. I just wanted, for once, to belong in my own house. By the punch bowl, I heard Amanda's voice. What is she wearing? Does she even try? Laughter. Then Heather, my sister, lowered her voice a fraction and said, "You guys, stop. It's not her fault she got the bad genes." They roared. I was 5 feet away. When my mother floated over, I thought she'd shut it down. Instead, she smiled and said, "Heather, sweetheart, the Andersons just arrived. Come say hello." It was like I didn't exist. I went upstairs and cried so hard my eyes swelled shut. That night snapped something clean in me. I understood. I would never be enough for them as I was. So I doubled down on what I could control: school. Mr. Lambert, my CS teacher, urged me to aim high. "Stanford would be lucky to have you," he said. When I got in, with a partial scholarship, I shook with hope. Something they couldn't spin. Something I'd achieved that even Heather hadn't. I brought the acceptance letter to dinner. My dad barely glanced at it. "California? That's far." "It's the best CS program in the country," I said. "And they're offering a scholarship." "Partial," my mother corrected, frowning. "We would still pay quite a bit. It's an investment in my future." Dad set down his fork. "Let's be realistic. We need to prioritize investments that will pay off." "What does that mean?" My voice was small, scared. "It means," my mother slid in, "we need to consider potential. Heather has clear prospects. She's socially adept, well-connected through her sorority. These things matter. And my achievement doesn't?" I heard my voice crack. "Don't be dramatic," my dad sighed. "Your sister's law school makes more sense than sending you across the country for a computer hobby." "It's not a hobby," I whispered, tears spilling. "I was accepted into one of the best." He cut me clean. "Let's be honest, Brianna. You're the ugly duckling in this family, and no degree will change that. Presentation matters. Connections matter. You don't have what it takes." The room went silent. Even Heather looked uneasy. I stood up on shaking legs. "So that's it. I'm not worth investing in because I'm not pretty enough." "We're being practical," my father said. "Maybe try community college. Improve yourself." I walked away without another word. Locked my bedroom door. And, through hot, furious tears, I made a decision. I would never beg them for their approval again. The next day, my grandmother called like she felt it through the air. I told her everything. She listened quietly, then said, "Pack your things. Meet me at the bank tomorrow." She handed me a cashier's check for $20,000. "I've been saving this for years," she said. "An escape fund, just in case. It was meant for my retirement, but you need it now. Go to the West Coast. Be who you're meant to be." I cried into her shoulder. "I'll pay you back. Every penny. Just succeed," she whispered. "That's all the repayment I want." 2 days later, I left with a suitcase and my laptop. I didn't say goodbye. I left a note. "Going to become someone you'll regret dismissing." Stanford had been the dream, but life rerouted me in the best way. The University of Washington found room for me last minute when I explained my situation and gave me the aid I needed to scrape by. I moved into the cheapest studio I could find: hot plate, paper-thin walls, forever damp laundry smell, and took 3 jobs: morning barista, evening waitress, weekend data entry. Full course load on top. Sleep was a luxury I couldn't afford. Some nights, lying on a thin mattress with city sounds leaking through the window, my father's words clawed at me. "Maybe you don't have what it takes." But I wasn't alone. My roommates, Lynn and Dakota, saw me. They slid plates across the table when I forgot to eat. Dakota handed me a flyer for a coding competition with a $2,000 prize. "Enter," she said. "Your weird robot brain is made for this." I almost didn't. The voice in my head, my mother's voice, said I'd embarrass myself. Desperation shoved that voice aside. The problem was urban traffic flow. I locked myself in the computer lab for 72 hours straight, living on vending machine coffee, and built an algorithm that approached the problem from a sideways angle. Presenting, I shook so badly I nearly dropped my laptop. But as I walked the judges through my logic, the room leaned in. I placed third, took home $1,000. More importantly, I got validation from people who spoke my language. A judge approached me after. Professor Morgan. Sharp eyes. Round glasses. You have remarkable insight, she said. Especially for a freshman. Are you considering algorithms as a focus? That conversation changed everything. Professor Morgan became my mentor, recommended me for research work, opened doors to Seattle's tech scene, introduced me to ideas that lit my brain on fire. For the first time, the question wasn't whether I belonged. It was where I wanted to build. My friends took shape where I'd least expected them. In my study group, Aiden, Zoe, and Marcus, who never once asked me to be smaller or prettier to fit. With them, I was Brianna, the problem solver. Not Brianna, the family disappointment. Physical changes came gradually. Less stress meant calmer skin. Walking everywhere trimmed my body without me obsessing over it. One afternoon, Dakota turned my wild hair into a sleek bob and said, "See? You were hiding behind all that." She wasn't wrong. But it wasn't the haircut that transformed me. It was how I was starting to stand. During junior year, I met Jordan at a hackathon. Tall, kind eyes, easy laugh. He watched me whiteboard an edge case problem and grinned. "I like how your mind works," he said later over phone. "You see paths I don't even know how to look for." When he kissed me on a rooftop with the skyline glittering, something soft inside me mended. I graduated with highest honors. Multiple offers landed in my inbox. My name got called, my friends screamed like lunatics, and I looked out over a sea where my family's faces should have been. They weren't there. But that day, I realized I had built another kind of family around me. The only shadow on that bright morning was the call from my grandmother's neighbor. Eleanor had passed away in her sleep. I broke. She had been the only one to bet on me, and she hadn't lived to see the win. She knew, Jordan murmured into my hair. People who love like that always know. I promised her, out loud, into my empty kitchen, that everything I built would carry her name. I started at Vertex Security, a mid-sized cybersecurity firm in Seattle, as a junior dev. It didn't take long to realize tech has its own version of appearances. Not beauty, but stereotypes. A senior dev named Greg always found a way to downplay my ideas. "Interesting approach," he'd say. "Probably too complex." It wasn't. I had the metrics to prove it. So I did what my grandmother taught me. I documented everything. Wrote flawless test suites. Let results be louder than egos. 6 months in, during an internal audit, I found a vulnerability in our flagship product that could have exposed client data. I laid out my findings, the exploit path, the patch. The room went quiet. Rachel Chin, our CTO, studied me with a new kind of attention. "Implement it," she said, "and join the audit team going forward." That was a turning point. Under Rachel's mentorship, I learned the code and the politics. "You'll face resistance because you're young and because you're a woman," she told me over coffee. "Your job isn't to make anyone comfortable. It's to be undeniable." By my second year, I was leading a small team. By the third, I'd been promoted twice and moved into an apartment with a view of Puget Sound. The best view, though, was the one in my head, the life I could see taking shape under my own hands. Then came the breakthrough. While working on a client's ransomware recovery, a pattern in the noise caught my eye. I followed it and built a predictive threat detection framework, an algorithm that could spot attack vectors before traditional systems even noticed a disturbance. I'll never forget Rachel's face when she reviewed it. "This isn't an iteration," she said. "It's a paradigm shift." Vertex offered a bonus and a promotion to fold it into their suite. But my gut whispered what it had whispered the night I left Connecticut. This is bigger. With Rachel's reluctant blessing and Jordan's full-throated support, I left to found Sentinel's shield around that predictive framework. It was terrifying. My savings evaporated into legal fees and hardware. Our dining table became my office. Jordan, now a UX designer, shaped the interface into something elegant and intuitive. Lynn introduced me to her cousin, a VC who heard me out with a careful expression, and then said, "Okay, I'm interested." Aiden and Marcus came on for equity because they believed in both the idea and me. Professor Morgan connected us to our first major client, a financial services firm sick of playing defense. When our platform stopped an attempted breach that would have cost them millions, doors swung open. 18 months in, we had 20 employees, a real office, and an industry feature with a photo of me standing in front of glowing monitors in a sharp blazer. Not the girl hiding in corners anymore. A distant cousin emailed, "Saw your feature. Is that really you? Everyone here is talking about it." Everyone. My stomach twisted at the word. Did that include my mother who had told me to focus on social skills? My father who called me the ugly duckling? I didn't ask. Our next funding round valued the company at $40 million, a number that still feels like a movie prop when I say it out loud. I was the CEO of something real. Something good. And yet, therapy taught me I still had a small, scared part inside me waiting for the people who hurt me to finally say, "We were wrong." "Name her," Dr. Bailey said during one session. "That 18-year-old in you. And don't let her drive." Jordan proposed in our living room during a Seattle rain, holding a simple sapphire ring that caught the light like the sky after a storm. "Be my partner in everything," he said, smiling that gentle smile that made my chest ache. I said yes with tears in my eyes. For the first time in my life, I felt loved exactly as I was. I created the Eleanor Miller Scholarship for Young Women in Computer Science. It felt like pressing my grandmother's palm into the future when I hoped would be kinder to girls like me. Life settled into a rhythm I could hardly believe belonged to me. Sentinel's shield grew. We hired. We built. We kept company safe. We mentored interns who reminded me of myself. My chosen family overflowed my kitchen on weekends, Jordan, my friends, my team laughing, loud, alive. Then the cream envelope arrived. It was thick, heavy, expensive, with a Greenwich return address. It sat on my coffee table for 3 days before I opened it. I slid my finger under the wax seal as if I might bleed. Together with their families, Heather Miller and Andrew James Thornton request the honor of your presence, my sister. Getting married. And after 10 years of silence, my name had made the list. "Are you okay?" Jordan asked softly, hand warm on my shoulder. "I don't know," I said. The invitation was a portal and a trap. Why no? I carried it to therapy like evidence. What would it mean to go? Dr. Bailey asked. "Closure," I said. "Or a wound ripped open. I can't tell which." "Either choice is allowed," she reminded me. "Just make it from your strongest self, not the 18-year-old. Megan and James, my chosen siblings, came over with wine and fierce opinions. "Absolutely not," Megan said immediately. "They threw you away. They don't deserve a seat near your light." James looked at me. "What do you want?" Not what would make the best statement. Deep down, I surprised myself with the answer. I want to stop wondering. I want to look them in the eyes as the woman I've become. Not for their validation. For my own. "Then go," he said. "But go on your terms." I looked up Heather's fiancé. Andrew James Thornton III. Heir to Thornton Technologies. Boards. Data companies. The overlap with my world wasn't lost on me. "Do you think that's why they invited me?" I asked Jordan later, staring at Andrew's LinkedIn. "Business?" "Maybe," he said. "But you're not going for them. You'd be going for you." A week before the RSVP deadline, an email hit my company account, not my personal one. Brianna, it's Heather. Please come to my wedding. There's so much I want to say. Call me. No apology. No acknowledgement of a decade of silence. Just a pull. In therapy, I put the email on the table like a specimen. She sent it to my company address, I said. And there's no apology. What boundaries would you need if you go? Dr. Bailey asked. That became my focus. I practiced lines with Jordan while we brushed our teeth at night. Brianna, you look different, he said in his best Catherine impression. Life in Seattle agrees with me, I practiced, smiling without giving away an inch. When I finally checked will attend and wrote +1, my hand was steady. I wasn't going for a reunion. I was going to look my past in the face without flinching. I chose a deep emerald silk dress that made my posture straighten just by existing. I looked in the mirror and saw a woman I would have idolized at 18. CEO. Fierce. Loved. The night before we flew, Jordan wrapped his arms around me on our balcony as the city blinked in gold and pink. Thoughts? Just reminding myself who I am now, I said. Whatever happens tomorrow, they can't take that from me. They absolutely cannot, he said, kissing my temple. Westbrook Country Club hadn't changed. Manicured lawns. White columns. Whispered gossip floating like perfume. We got there early for the pre-ceremony gathering deliberately, so I could walk into this storm on my terms. No one recognized me. Are you friends of Andrew or Heather? Mrs. Ellison, my mother's old bridge partner, asked with polished curiosity. Family, actually, I said, smiling. Oh? From which side? The Millers, I said. I'm Brianna. Blank politeness. How lovely. I don't believe Heather has mentioned you. Of course she hadn't. I'd been erased so thoroughly from the family story that even people who knew me as a kid couldn't match the woman in emerald silk to the girl they dismissed. And then I saw them. My parents. My mother still slender and blonde with a sharper edge. My father grayer, posture like a title deed. I walked toward them, Jordan's hand an anchor at the small of my back. Excuse me, I said, stepping into their circle. My mother turned with her perfected social smile. Yes, hello, she said. No flicker of recognition. It's been a long time, I said. It took 3 seconds. Then it hit her, and her face cracked, shock, fear, calculation. Brianna, she whispered, glass trembling. My father turned, smile slipping as if he'd seen a ghost. My God. Surprise, I said evenly. It's good to see you both. This is my fiancé, Jordan Reed. Jordan offered his hand like a professional. Pleasure to meet you, Mr. and Mrs. Miller. And congratulations on your daughter's wedding. Catherine's autopilot kicked in. She shook his hand. Thank you, she said. Then to me, tight, if you'll excuse us, I need a word with Brianna. When the couple they were speaking with drifted away, my mother hissed, What are you doing here? I was invited, I said, pulling the cream invitation from my clutch and handing it to her like a receipt. Quite a surprise after 10 years of silence. But it felt rude to decline. You look different, my father said, scanning me like a prospectus. 10 years, I said. And building a life on my own terms. That'll do it. This isn't the time or the place, my mother snapped, eyes darting, panic kissing the edges of her voice. Heather's day should be perfect. I agree, I said calmly. I'm here as an invited guest to celebrate my sister. Nothing more, nothing less. My father recovered his boardroom voice. Perhaps we should discuss. The time for that was 10 years ago, I said gently. Today, I'm just a guest. We walked away. The knot in my chest eased as if my ribs had finally expanded to their full size. Jordan squeezed my hand. You were magnificent. The ceremony was a fairy tale of white roses and a string quartet. Heather was breathtaking in a dress that probably cost more than my freshman year. I sat in the middle rows on purpose, far from the family section. I wasn't here to play a role I didn't audition for. After, in the hallway on my way back from the restroom, I ran straight into her. Heather stopped short like she'd hit a pane of glass. "Brianna," she breathed, as if the word itself burned. "Hello, Heather," I said. "Congratulations." It was beautiful. She stared at me, at the woman who didn't match the sister in her memory. "You came," she whispered. I wasn't sure. "Your invitation was unexpected," I said. "But I'm here." "You look amazing," she said quickly, slippery as ever. "Really, transformed." "Life has a way of doing that," I said. "Especially when you have to build it on your own." She flinched. "Darling, there you are," a man said, warm hand on her waist. Andrew. Tall, composed, a tuxedo that fit like a second skin. "Your mother's looking for you." "Photos." He paused when he noticed me and smiled politely. "Hello." "Heather, this is," she started, but I extended my hand. "Brianna Miller," I said. "Nice to finally meet you, Andrew." The ceremony was lovely. "You know Heather?" he asked, genuinely curious. Heather's eyes went wide. A silent plea. A warning. "I don't know which." "Actually," I said, holding her gaze, "I'm her sister." He blinked. "Sister?" "But Heather told me she's an only child." Time stalled. Even the music from the ballroom seemed to hold its breath. Heather's face drained of color. "There must be some misunderstanding," she said quickly. "Brianna and we've been estranged. It's complicated." Falling out," I repeated softly. "Is that what we're calling disownment now?" Andrew's expression shifted from confusion to alarm. "Disowned?" "Not now," Heather begged. "Please." But truth has its own momentum. A few guests trickled into the hallway. My mother, drawn by the churn, stopped short when she saw us. Her smile faltered. "What's going on?" "I was just meeting Brianna," Andrew said, his voice carrying Heather's sister. The one I didn't know existed. Silence fell like a curtain around us. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately," my mother said, already trying to pivot, reaching for Andrew's arm. "I think we should," he agreed. "But not in the way you mean." Heather. Brianna. Library. Now. The club's library was all mahogany and leather and old money. Andrew shut the door. He looked between us, jaw tight. "Explain." Heather looked trapped. "It's our wedding day. Can't this wait?" "No," he said, calm, steel underneath. "You lied by omission about having a sister." "That's not small." I let the moment breathe. This wasn't a scene I engineered. It was a truth that finally insisted on air. "She left," Heather said at last, voice small. "She cut ties with us." After being told I wasn't worth investing in, I said evenly. "After years of being compared to you and found lacking. After Dad called me the ugly duckling. After Mom suggested community college because my Stanford acceptance wasn't worth it." Andrew turned to Heather, face darkening. "Is that true?" She couldn't meet his eye. "You don't understand how it was," she said, rushing into old defenses. "Brianna was different. Difficult. She didn't fit." "Didn't fit what?" I asked quietly. "Your beauty standards? Your social ladder? The family script. You could have tried harder," she burst out. "To be like us. To care about appearances and connections. You just judged us for playing the game." "I was 18, I said. Begging for love." "And now look at you," she said, gesturing to me. "You figured it out without us. You're successful. You're beautiful by their rules. You didn't need us." "That's not the point," Andrew said, voice tight. "The point is honesty. And decency." The door opened. My father appeared. "Everything all right?" "Guests are asking for the bride and groom." "No, Richard," Andrew said, using his name like a verdict. "It's not all right. I just found out your family disowned Brianna." and that your daughter has spent years and our entire relationship pretending she's an only child. My father's mask cracked before reforming. Family matters are complex. Today isn't the time to, is that what you call disowning a child? Complex? Andrew asked. The word landed like a hammer. The door opened again. Jordan stepped in with a tall, silver-haired man who carried boardroom gravity just by breathing. James Thornton, too. Andrew's father. Everything okay, son? He asked, eyes sweeping the room. Actually, no, Andrew said. I just learned my wife has a sister she never told me about. Brianna Miller. According to the story, she was cut off by the Millers years ago. James Thornton's gaze flicked to me. A beat. Recognition sparked. Brianna Miller of Sentinel Shield? I nodded. That's me. His eyes lit. Your predictive algorithms are changing the industry. We've been following your work closely. My father's expression flickered from dismissive to calculating so quickly it almost whiplashed. Brianna has done quite well for herself, he said lightly, as if he'd always believed. Without any help from you, Jordan said, stepping up, voice calm but edged. In fact, despite your active hindrance. Young man, my father bristled, slipping back into his favorite role. You don't understand, I understand human decency, Jordan cut in. And I'm not seeing a lot of it here. The air hummed with tension. James looked between us and then at his son. We have 200 guests waiting, he said carefully. This can be addressed after the reception. Andrew turned to me. Brianna, I'm sorry you were pulled into this mess today. I had no idea. Thank you for your grace. You don't owe me an apology, I said. This isn't on you. He nodded and looked at Heather. We'll go back out because it's the right thing to do. Afterward, we're going to talk about honesty and values. Heather nodded, eyes shiny, mask shattered. As I turned to leave, my mother grabbed my arm. Her voice was low, hot. Was this your plan? To ruin your sister's wedding with ancient history? No, I said, steady, pulling my arm free. I came because I was invited. Against my better judgment. The truth appearing isn't my fault. It's the bill coming due. You've changed, she said, assessing me like a market. Yes, I said, but not in the ways you think. My worth didn't increase with success or mascara. It was always there. You were the ones who couldn't or wouldn't see it. Jordan and I rejoined the reception. We stayed just long enough to be polite. On our way out, Heather found me by the coat check, eyes red. You couldn't let me have this day, she said, voice shaking. I didn't come to blow anything up, I said quietly. I came because I thought maybe there was a chance for a beginning. I was wrong about the timing. But the truth was always going to surface. He's so angry, she whispered. Andrew values honesty. That's not a flaw, I said gently. What happens now? She asked, and for a second, she sounded like the girl I used to sleep across the hall from. That depends, I said, on whether there's anything real left to salvage. I took out a card and wrote my personal number on the back. If you want to talk, really talk, call me. But only if you're ready to be honest. We stepped into the cool night. A weight lifted I didn't know I'd been carrying. That night, I slept hard for the first time in weeks. Like my nervous system finally exhaled. 3 days later, a Connecticut number lit up my phone. Brianna? It's Heather. Her voice was smaller than I remembered. Can we talk? Like you said. Really talk. That call started a slow rebuild, not to some shiny, fake sisterhood, but something true. Andrew insisted on couples therapy right after the wedding, pushing Heather to face what she'd been avoiding for years. I was jealous of you, she admitted one night, words coming through the phone like they'd fought their way out. Everyone thought I had everything. But you had a mind that didn't need anyone's approval. I was trapped in theirs. I would have traded my brain for their love in a heartbeat back then, I said honestly. That's what I have to own. Andrew, it turned out, had been raised with similar wealth but different values, integrity over performance, substance over image. The revelation shook his trust, but he didn't run. He drew a line. And Heather slowly, painfully, chose to cross it. My parents, predictably, took another route. My mother called once. "Your father and I have been thinking," she said, breezy. "We should have dinner next time you're in Connecticut. Your company's made quite a name for itself." "Is that why now?" I asked. "Because I'm useful?" A pause. "Then, we're proud of what you've accomplished." "I'm not interested in a relationship based on a stock price," I said. "If you want to be in my life, start with accountability." "The past is the past," she said. "Dwelling is unproductive." "Accountability isn't dwelling," I said. "It's the price of admission." We hit an impasse there. My father didn't call at all. Through Heather, I heard he was tracking Sentinel Shield's valuation with great interest. Of course he was. Boundaries became my guardrails. I kept limited, conditional contact with my mother, none with my father, until he could say the words I needed to hear. He never did. Meanwhile, Sentinel's Shield kept growing. We expanded internationally. Industry panels started calling our framework the gold standard. We crossed 200 employees with offices in Seattle, Boston, and London. It was surreal and wonderful and sometimes scary. Therapy anchored me. "You built yourself, brick by brick," Dr. Bailey said once. "Now stop asking the people who abandoned the project to sign off on the blueprints." 6 months after the wedding, I launched the Eleanor Miller Foundation. We kept the scholarship, added mentorship, community, emotional support. The combination I'd needed at 18 and didn't have. At our first event, I looked out at rows of brilliant young women, some confident, some still finding their voices, and felt my grandmother in the room so strongly I had to swallow hard. "Success isn't how you look or who approves," I told them. "It's built day by day, choice by choice, as you honor your own mind." A year after the wedding, Heather came to Seattle. Alone. No entourage, no scripts. We walked by the water, both of us quieter than we used to be. "I'm trying to figure out who I am if I'm not the pretty one or the perfect daughter," she confessed. "It's terrifying." "You've had a decade of practice." "I'm just starting." "It's never too late to begin," I told her. "The hardest step is stepping away from the roles they wrote for us. We will never have the easy sisterhood I wished for as a kid. But what we're building now is real. Imperfect. Honest. Ours." My story didn't get the fairy tale twist where my parents burst into tears, apologized, and welcomed me home with open arms. Real life is messier. What I found was more valuable: the strength to define family on my own terms. To create a circle where people see and honor each other's whole selves without keeping score. One evening, sitting on our balcony, the sky painting Seattle in rose and gold, I told Jordan, I spent years waiting for them to realize they were wrong about me, to validate me. But that was never the point. "What was?" he asked. "That I never needed their validation in the first place," I said. My worth wasn't theirs to give or take. It was always mine. I just had to claim it. Sometimes I think back to that hallway at the country club. Andrew asking, "You know her?" And me saying, "I'm her sister." It wasn't just a reveal. It was a reclamation. A stake in my own story. What defines family? Blood? History? Or the choice to show up with honesty and respect? I've learned it's the last one. My chosen family, Jordan, my friends, my mentors, my team, asked nothing of me except to be myself. If my blood relatives want to join that circle, the door is open. But only if they can come with accountability and truth. If you've had to redraw the borders of family, I'm with you. Share what boundaries saved you. And if this story hit something tender or strong in you, stick around. There's room here for people building lives on their own terms. Hold your head high. Your worth is not up for debate. It's yours. Exactly as you are.